Welcome, students. Today we're going to talk about something very exciting, which is bringing source material into our essays. We talked a little bit about sources when we went over the assignment itself, but today we're going to look at different ways that we can bring source material into our essay. This is a process called synthesis. Now, if synthesis is done correctly, there should be a smooth transition from you to your source and back to you. We don't want any clunkiness or any awkwardness in moving from you to a source or from a source back to you. So we're going to start by looking at a couple of bad examples and then one good example. And then in the future videos, we'll look at the three different ways that we can include source material. So let's start by looking at an example. Now let's look at this paragraph. We can see that this paragraph is using a source by a couple of authors. This student has chosen to use their first names, which we'll see is not the way to cite an article. But the bigger issue is we get this citation at the end. We never actually see where this source begins. We don't see any signal phrases that say, according to Katya and Tim. We don't see any indication that we're moving to a source through quotation marks. And so it's impossible to know where this source starts and where it ends. If I look at this beginning sentence, seasoned artists who display their creations on urban surfaces typically have a solid understanding of the legal landscape surrounding graffiti. This sounds like a claim to me, and it sounds like a topic sentence. But really, I don't know if this is coming from the source or if this is coming from the author. So this is a big problem that we want to avoid. We want to make it clear what words are coming from us and what words are coming from a source. In this paragraph, we now see that we have quotation marks that indicate where the quote begins. However, we get a strange handoff from the writer to the source itself. We don't get any signal phrase. We don't get any indication that a source is coming. And more importantly, we get these beginning quotation marks, but we don't have any ending quotation marks. I would assume that it would end here and that it belongs to Bartolome, but we get this person, William, and I don't know if William is quoting Bartolome in his or her article, and I don't know if the quote actually ends here. It just becomes difficult to understand what is the author and what is the source material. And then we get the clunkiness of it, we get the bad citation. So this quote is not working seamlessly, and there are errors in the synthesis here. Let's look at this quote that I've taken out of a student essay. So here we get an author or an author from a source, Douglas L. Leslie. We get some background on that author, why this author is credible, professor at Penn State. And then we get an actual signal phrase. The signal phrase is showing us that we're now moving to data from Douglas Leslie, and we get that signal phrase reported. Then we get the quotation marks, we get the quote, and the citation at the end. This citation indicates that now the source is done, and now the writer is resuming with her words. So we see, unfortunately, ASD is not the condition that struggles with access. What this writer is doing is responding to that quote, discussing why that quote matters within the argument and why that writer has chosen to use this quote specifically. There are three ways that we're going to discuss bringing in source material, and these are the three ways that we'll be doing this throughout the semester. The first one is going to be through a summary. The second one is going to be through a quote. And the third one is going to be a paraphrase. These are the three methods that we are going to now look at in more detail in further videos.